Have you ever wondered how someone feels when they realize they have lost you? It's a feeling that many of us experience but rarely talk about. How does it feel when a woman realizes she's lost something valuable? It's more than just regret. It's the deep self-reflection, emotional gravity, and the sudden clarity that comes with the realization that something special is no longer there. Let me share a story that might help shed some light on this. A friend of mine went through a rough breakup. At first, his ex seemed unaffected. She was distant, almost as if she'd moved on without a second thought. But as time went by, months later, she began reaching out. She started with casual messages, things like, "Hey, I saw something that reminded me of you." At first, it seemed like just a random text, but it quickly became clear that this wasn't by accident. He asked me, "Why now? Why is she suddenly showing interest? What's going on?" This question sparked a thought in me, one that I believe many of us can relate to. When someone realizes they've lost you, it triggers a deep emotional shift, a mix of regret, reflection, and sometimes even self-doubt. But why does this happen? Why does absence have such a powerful effect? Let's break this down together. Why does absence create emotional gravity? Number 1, subtle reconnection attempts. When someone realizes they've lost you, the first sign is that they'll attempt to reconnect, but it won't be in an obvious way. She might like an old post of yours on Instagram, or she might send a text out of the blue, something as simple as, "How's everything going?" At first glance, it might seem random, but it's not. It's intentional. This is what I call the breadcrumb trail. Take the example of my colleague, Emma. She had a complicated breakup with an ex. After months of silence, she decided to reach out, but instead of sending a direct message or calling him, she liked one of his posts on social media. It wasn't a bold or desperate move. It was subtle. She didn't want to come across as needy, but she also didn't want to lose him forever. She hoped he would notice and perhaps respond, but she was careful not to make it too obvious. This is a classic example of how someone tests the waters after they've realized they've lost something valuable. It's their way of saying, "I'm thinking about you," but without fully admitting how they feel. It's a small, seemingly insignificant gesture, but it carries a lot of emotional weight. If you notice these breadcrumbs, whether it's a like, a casual text, or an indirect comment, don't jump to conclusions immediately. Take your time to observe. Ask yourself, is she genuinely trying to reconnect, or is this just a moment of nostalgia? Sometimes these small actions are more about the person reaching out than they are about you. It's about them testing their own feelings, seeing if they're ready to face the reality of what they have lost. Number 2, testing the waters. When she reaches out directly, it won't always be with an emotional confession like, "I miss you." Instead, she'll likely approach you with something neutral like, "How's work going?" or "Have you been keeping busy?" This might seem like a random question, but trust me, it's anything but random. This behavior is rooted in self-protection. No one likes the idea of being vulnerable, especially if there's a risk of rejection. Emotional vulnerability is something that most people try to avoid, especially if they're not sure how the other person feels. So, when she reaches out in this casual, nonchalant way, it's her way of testing the waters. She wants to see if you'll meet her halfway, if you'll engage in a conversation without diving straight into old feelings. At this point, it's important to know where you stand. Are you open to reconnecting, or are you looking to move on? If you're open to reconnecting, then you can keep the conversation light but honest. Don't dive back into old habits right away. Let things develop naturally. But if you're not interested in reopening old wounds, be respectful but firm. Let her know where you stand and make sure not to give false hope. Number 3, the fear of loss. Here's where things take a deeper turn. Absence creates clarity. Think about it. When you step away from something, whether it's a job, a friendship, or even a hobby, doesn't it help you gain perspective? The same thing happens in relationships. When she's not hearing from you, when she sees you living your life without her, something inside her shifts. Initially, she might think that things will go back to normal. She might hold on to the hope that you'll come back, that everything will somehow return to the way it was. But as time passes and she sees that you've truly moved on, no likes, no replies, no attention, that's when the fear sets in. The realization hits her. I've lost him. This is where the concept of loss aversion comes in. Psychologists tell us that humans fear losing something more than they enjoy gaining it. This fear of loss is powerful. It can cause people to act impulsively when they realize that they've lost something or someone valuable. Number 4, when reconnection makes sense. Now, let's talk about when reconnection actually makes sense. Sometimes a breakup happens because of misunderstandings, poor timing, or external stress, rather than a lack of love. In cases like this, reconnection might actually be worth considering. I know a couple who broke up because of conflicting schedules and the pressures of life. It wasn't that they didn't love each other, it was that their lives had become too complicated. Months later, they ran into each other at a mutual friend's gathering. After a long conversation, they realized their breakup was a mistake and that they still loved each other. Now, they're happily married with 2 kids. However, not every breakup is like that. If the breakup was caused by something deeper, dishonesty, abuse, or incompatibility, then going back is probably not a good idea. Some things are better left in the past. Number 5. What is she really feeling? When she reaches out, what is she actually feeling? It's a complex mix of emotions. Maybe regret for letting go of something valuable, nostalgia for the connection you once had, and possibly even guilt for the role she played in the breakup. These feelings can overwhelm her as she realizes what has been lost. However, it's important to recognize that her reaching out might not be as much about wanting to rekindle the relationship as it is about her needing closure. Often when people make this move, it's because they're looking to ease their own emotional turmoil. They might be grappling with their own unresolved feelings and want to understand what went wrong, not necessarily because they want to fix things with you. As many psychological experts point out, seeking closure is often more about self-healing than reconciliation. It's a way for her to find peace with her past choices. In many cases, her actions are more about her emotional journey than about seeking to return to the relationship. So, while it's natural for her to feel these things, it's crucial for you to discern whether her reaching out is truly about wanting you back or just about her own need to make sense of the situation. Number 6, your power to decide. Now, imagine receiving a message from her, a simple but meaningful message. I've been thinking about you. In that moment, you stand at a crossroads. The decision is not about her feelings, it's about your future. Will you retrace old paths, stepping back into a familiar relationship, or will you move forward into the unknown with purpose and clarity? Think of it like standing at the edge of a bridge, one that connects the past to the future. To cross that bridge means leaving one side behind. The decision is in your hands. If you've grown during the no contact phase, don't throw that away for the sake of comfort or familiarity. Trust in your own evolution. Trust in your growth. Your values, your goals, and your personal well-being should always come first. At the end of the day, losing someone teaches us something valuable. Whether it's her realizing what she's lost or you understanding what you deserve, growth is the ultimate goal. And remember, the best relationships don't happen when you chase someone who doesn't see your worth. They happen when 2 whole individuals come together, equally strong and secure in who they are. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your story in the comments. Let's continue the conversation.